Hello, my name is Mindy Malenius, and I am currently serving as the Public Services Librarian at the U.S. Army's Landstuhl Library in Germany. Today, I'd like to share some collection development considerations unique to libraries that serve military populations. This presentation is meant for Army Collection Development librarians and also serves to help civilian librarians more fully understand the needs of current and former military families that may be in their community. First, let's define an Army Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Library. They are what can be termed special public. And this designation is given because while its primary purpose is to act as a public library, unique considerations and collections are made specifically for a military audience. Being part of the Army, there is a regulation governing the Army Library Program. It partially defines the mission as serving as a strategic knowledge management resource that enables the Army to gain and maintain full spectrum knowledge superiority, concurrently facilitating research, education, training, self-development, well-being, outreach, and lifelong learning, the right information at the right time and place. That wording makes even our libraries sound weaponized. Actually, we are, with information, education, and entertainment. A collections librarian must have a thorough understanding of his or her library's operations and services and a close relationship with the units that provide them. Each effective collection should revolve around the needs of its community. One of the most significant attributes of the Army is a vast diversity. Our patron base includes soldiers, civilians, retirees, and family members in varying numbers depending on location. And not only are these patrons from all walks of life, they are also from a plethora of ethnicities and identities. The following table from the Army Public Health Center's Health of the Force report highlights the multicultural nature of today's force. These percentages exceed those of the general United States population. Each and every one of these soldiers and their families deserve authentic representation on our shelves and in our electronic databases through quality fiction and nonfiction sources that focus on our shared humanity and social justice. Items in foreign languages are desired and beneficial in locations outside of the continental United States, especially. Language courses in multiple formats, literature in the host nation's language, and beginning English support resources are greatly appreciated. Resiliency issues are a constant in the life of military families. Relocation happens frequently, which can place a lot of stress on the soldier, spouse, and children. The majority of the youth patrons are military dependents, and roughly 90% of them will move between 3 to 6 times between kindergarten and 12th grade if their soldier remains in service. Some move twice as much in that time frame if their parent or guardian is on a shorter force rotation. And this permanent change of station pattern of leaving friends and family, adjusting to a new school, and coping with uncertainty becomes the norm for this population. However, there are repercussions due to this regular uprooting, and the easing of this transition is desirable. University of Minnesota Extension educator Sarah Kroimans echoes this, writing, "A PCS can be a new, sometimes scary experience for military children. Families can use children's literature to introduce the transition of moving and help children think about ways to manage their feelings and navigate the challenges." Interestingly, homeschooling information is a popular request that reflects how this topic is such a concern for families that the Military Family Lifestyle Survey lists it as a top 5 issue. Many turn to homeschooling and voluntary separation from their service member, geobatching, to offset the impact of relocation. And this certainly creates an opportunity to include resources in the collection that address these matters and support this special community. Trip deployment adds pressure by straining relationships, inducing anxiety, and sometimes creating logistical nightmares for suddenly geographically single caregivers. Digging more deeply to find articles dealing with smaller scale separations, for example, peacetime temporary duty assignments, can be frustrating, but well worth the effort. Post-traumatic stress disorder items should be included in the collection, but perhaps not to an extensive degree. Yes, this is a pervasive, significant affliction present to a relatively high degree in military life. Yet there are other entities, the Traumatic Brain Injury Clinic for one, that offer the most up-to-date data and coping mechanisms. Supplementing this area with signs or shelf markers directing patrons to external resources strengthens our service to soldiers and family members searching for answers. A typical Army career lasts for approximately 20 years and culminates in retirement at a younger than average age. For example, if a soldier enlists at 18, they separate from the military at 38. This enables and often necessitates a second career for many. Therefore, information regarding career transitioning and life after the Army gains a lot of traction. As expected, a healthy offering of military and war history is necessary. Also, senior leadership often composes reading lists featuring titles such as The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And for instance, Army Chief of Staff General James C. McConville's monthly recommendations include the aforementioned book, Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin, It's My Country Too by Jerry Bell and Tracy Crow, and somewhat surprisingly, the movie The Social Dilemma. He introduces his choices thusly. A course of personal study and contemplation is an essential component for the individual development of every Army professional. Each of us faces busy schedules every day, and finding time to read and think is a recurring challenge. But even as we train our units and physically condition our bodies, we must improve our minds through reading and critical thinking. Collection development librarians may assume a major theme in fiction to stock would be related to soldiers, warfare, etc. Anecdotally, this theory does not bear out, unless it's written by Tom Clancy. Military patrons at my library and related branches prefer to escape. Library IQ and Sierra study reveals low checkout rates for overtly martial stories. Historical fiction, science fiction, fantasy, mysteries, and true crime novel circulation prevails. In conclusion, patrons at an Army library want what those in civilian public libraries do. Their unique nature stems from particular professional, resiliency, and multicultural requirements. And beyond how these considerations inform ordering for Army libraries, civilian libraries can and should offer an extension of this care. After all, these groups are also a part of their local communities, or will be in the future. But before I let you go, I'd like to share some examples of actual titles that are related to the topics we've discussed. Some suggestions for military children are Army Brats, which is a book about moving to a new Army post for the first time, the fear of rejection, and just the typical childhood challenges. bullies, making new friends, trying to figure out what the whole purpose of the world is. The second is an adorable book. It's self-published about a German shepherd named Lucy, who does a wonderful job of illustrating a child's fears of separation anxiety, confusion because of all the changes happening, and the importance of establishing routines to help ease these transitions. The third title is Military Brats, Oh No, Moving Again, which promotes a holistic wellness in military youth and defines this affectionate term brats, because that actually does stand for brave, resilient, ambitious, tenacious, and strong. And another plus about this book is it does a great job of representing diversity. A few titles you may want to take a look at for homeschooling include Hybrid Homeschooling, A Guide to the Future of Education, with a robust discussion about hybrid learning, where you do in-person schooling for part of the week and at-home schooling for the other. Also, Why I Love Homeschooling Neurodiverse Kids. 25 parents share the joys and challenges of educating their kids who have ADHD, autism, dyslexia, giftedness, or are otherwise differently wired. It talks about creative solutions for educating children and addresses the diversity of special needs learners. Often it's focusing on those disabilities that are invisible. And then thirdly, we have the Homeschooling Starter Guide, How to Create and Adapt the Best Education Action Plan for Your Needs. And this is a very popular title in the libraries that I am in, because everyone's trying to figure out if homeschooling's for them, if they can actually handle it, and like parents everywhere, they're afraid they're going to mess up their children. So this goes over the basics of teaching approaches and learning styles and gives some special attention to assessment. If you'd like to delve a bit more into what the Army currently holds, take a look at our catalog at mwrlibrary.armybiznet.com. Thank you for spending this time with me on this topic that is very close to my heart. Please feel free to reach out at the email mindy.n.malenius.nav@army.mil. If you'd like to ask any specific questions about Army libraries, collection development in general, I would love to have a conversation.